The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 7 ancient species sat at its head, and they believed they were the masters of all life in the universe. They made the laws. They decided who lived and who died. They called themselves the Elder Races, and they looked down on everyone else. Humanity had joined the Council only 40 years ago. To the Elders, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. They were small. They were weak. They were nothing. Lily Carter was 17 years old. She had brown hair that fell past her shoulders and green eyes that always seemed to be looking at something wonderful. She smiled easily and laughed often. She dreamed of traveling to distant stars and meeting alien species and helping different worlds understand each other. Her father was Admiral Nathan Carter of the United Earth Defense Fleet. He was a serious man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen too many battles and buried too many friends. But when he looked at his daughter, his hard face would soften, and he would remember why he kept fighting. Lily had been chosen for the Youth Ambassador program. It was a great honor. Young humans would travel to the Council's capital world, Varanthos Prime, and learn about galactic politics. They would show the Elder Races that humanity could be trusted. Nathan did not want her to go. "It is dangerous," he told her the night before she left. "The Council does not like us. They think we are beneath them." Lily took his hand and smiled. "That is why I have to go, Dad. Someone has to show them we are not so different. Someone has to build bridges." Nathan looked at his daughter, and his heart felt heavy. But he could not say no to her. He never could. "Be careful," he said. "Promise me." "I promise," she said. She did not know that she would never come home. Varanthos Prime was the most beautiful world Lily had ever seen. The cities floated above purple oceans. The buildings were made of crystal that caught the light of 3 suns. Millions of aliens from hundreds of species walked the streets, speaking languages she had never heard. For 31 days, Lily studied and learned and made friends. She met a young Veldari named Kes, who showed her how to read alien poetry. She met an old Mendrith teacher who told her stories about the first days of the Council. She sent messages to her father every night, telling him about everything she had seen. "I think I was wrong about this place," she wrote in her last message. "There is so much good here, so much we can learn from each other." On the 32nd day, everything changed. Lily had gotten lost in the lower levels of the Council spire. She was looking for a library that Kes had told her about. The corridors were dark and empty. She should have turned back, but she was curious. She had always been curious. She heard voices coming from behind a door. One voice she recognized. It belonged to High Counselor Voranth of the Kelthari. He was the most powerful being in the galaxy. His word was law. Lily knew she should leave. But something in his voice made her stop. He sounded angry. He sounded afraid. She pressed her ear to the door and listened. "The shipment must arrive on schedule," Voranth was saying. "The buyers are waiting." Another voice answered. It was cold and mechanical. "The cargo is ready. 3,000 units from the outer rim. Primitive species. No one will miss them." "Good. Make sure there are no witnesses. The Council cannot know about this." Lily felt her blood turn cold. She understood what she was hearing. Voranth was selling people, living beings from uncontacted worlds. He was a slaver. Without thinking, she pulled out her personal device and began recording. Her hands were shaking, but she did not stop. The galaxy needed to know the truth. She recorded for 5 minutes. Then her device made a small sound. A notification. She had forgotten to silence it. The voices behind the door stopped. "What was that?" Voranth asked. Lily ran. She did not get far. Council security forces caught her at the end of the corridor. They took her device. They dragged her to a holding cell. They did not let her contact anyone. For 3 days, she sat alone in a white room with no windows. She did not know if it was day or night. She did not know if anyone was looking for her. On Earth, Nathan Carter received a message from the council. It said that his daughter had been arrested for espionage. It said she had committed crimes against galactic peace. It said she would be tried before the council assembly. Nathan flew to Varanthos Prime immediately. He begged to see his daughter. They refused. He demanded a lawyer for her. They laughed. Ambassador Daniel Morrison pleaded her case before the council. He was a good man who had spent 30 years building relations with alien species. He used every argument he knew. He reminded them of treaties and agreements and promises. The council listened with bored expressions. After 3 days, High Counselor Vorn stood and announced the verdict. "The human child is guilty," he said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "She attempted to steal council secrets. She is a spy. The sentence is death." Morrison stood in shock. "You cannot do this. She is a child. She is innocent." Varanth looked at him with cold, yellow eyes. "She is human. That is all we need to know." They executed Lily Carter at dawn the next day. She was alone in a white room. No one held her hand. No one said goodbye. The last thing she saw was a council guard pressing a button on a machine. The last thing she thought was of her father, and how she wished she could tell him she was sorry for breaking her promise. When Nathan Carter received the news, he was standing on the observation deck of his ship. He read the message 3 times. Then he put down his tablet and walked to his quarters. He sat in the dark for 6 hours. He did not move. He did not speak. He just held a photograph of Lily, taken on her 16th birthday, when she had smiled and said she wanted to see the stars. When he finally stood, something had changed in his eyes. The grief was still there, but it had been joined by something else. Something cold. Something patient. Something that the council should have feared. He sent a single message to Earth Command. "They killed my daughter. Prepare for war." The message reached President Catherine Walsh within the hour. She read it and closed her eyes. She had known Lily. She had pinned the Youth Ambassador badge on her chest and told her she was proud of her. Now the girl was dead, murdered by the very being she had tried to understand. Walsh opened a secure channel to every human ship, every colony, every outpost in the galaxy. "All personnel," she said, her voice steady and cold, "return to Earth immediately. No exceptions, no explanations. It is time to come home." Across the galaxy, humans heard the message, and they understood something terrible was about to begin. The council expected chaos. They expected humans to scream and cry and send angry messages. They expected riots in the streets of Earth. They expected desperate attempts at negotiation. They expected begging. They got silenced in the first week after Lily Carter's execution. Every human in council space began to leave. They did not make speeches. They did not cause trouble. They simply packed their bags, closed their shops, and boarded ships heading home. On Varanthos Prime, the human embassy went dark. The lights turned off. The doors locked. Within 3 days, it was empty. On the trade world of Mendrith 7, human merchants sold their goods for almost nothing and disappeared overnight. Their alien customers woke up to find empty storefronts and locked doors. On research stations across the galaxy, human scientists quietly transferred their files, said polite goodbyes to their colleagues, and left without explanation. When aliens asked what was happening, the humans just smiled and said, "We have been called home." High Counselor Voranth watched the reports with amusement. He sat in his golden chair in the council chamber and laughed. "Look at them run," he said to the other council members. "Like frightened animals. This is why they will never be our equals. They do not have the spine for power." The other councilors agreed. The Mendrith representative, a tall being with silver skin, nodded his head. "They are emotional creatures. They will mourn for a time, and then they will come crawling back. They need us. Their economy depends on council trade. Perhaps we should have killed more of them, joked the Vorn delegate, and the chamber filled with laughter. Only one counselor did not laugh. Ambassador Trevik of the Aldari sat quietly in his seat, his four eyes watching the reports carefully. He was old, even by his species standards. He had seen many things in his long life. He had seen what happened when you pushed a peaceful species too far. "We should not celebrate yet," he said quietly. Varanth turned to him with a sneer. "Do you fear the humans, old one?" "I fear what we do not understand," Trevik replied. "The humans are not running. They are retreating. There is a difference." Varanth laughed again. "There is no difference. Running and retreating are the same thing for the weak." Trevik said nothing more, but he could not shake the cold feeling in his chest. On Earth, the mood was different. There were no riots. There was no panic. Instead, there was a quiet determination that spread from city to city, from country to country, from continent to continent. President Catherine Walsh addressed the world from the steps of the United Nations building. Billions of people watched on screens everywhere. "Today I speak to you not as your president, but as a human being," she began. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the words. 17 days ago, the Galactic Council murdered one of our children. Lily Carter was 17 years old. She had dreams and hopes and a whole life ahead of her. They took all of that away. She paused and looked directly into the cameras. They killed her because she saw something she should not have seen. They killed her because she was human. They killed her because they believed we were too weak to do anything about it. The crowd in front of her was silent. No one moved. No one breathed. "I want to be clear about something," Walsh continued. "We did not start this. We came to the council with open hands. We offered friendship. We offered cooperation. We sent our best and brightest to learn from them. And they murdered a child." She took a deep breath. "From this moment forward, humanity is no longer a member of the Galactic Council. We do not recognize their laws. We do not accept their authority. And we do not forgive what they have done." She leaned forward, and her eyes burned with cold fire. "To the Council, I say this. You have made a terrible mistake. You believed that killing one girl would teach us our place. Instead, you have awakened something you do not understand. You think you know what humans are capable of. You think we are soft. You think we are weak. You think we will forget." Her voice dropped almost a whisper, but every word was clear. "You are wrong. We will not forget. We will not forgive. And when we come for you, and we will come, you will learn that there is nothing more dangerous in this universe than a human with nothing left to lose." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, the council received the recording. Most of them laughed at it. Some called it the desperate words of a dying species. Varanth played it at a dinner party and mocked Walsh's accent, but Ambassador Trevik watched it alone in his quarters. And when it finished, he began making plans to move his family to the far edge of council space. He had seen that look before. In the eyes of the Kreth, before they destroyed the 7th Fleet. In the eyes of the Volar, before they burned 3 council worlds. In the eyes of every species that had ever decided that death was better than submission, the humans were not giving up. They were preparing. Admiral Nathan Carter was given command of a new project. It had no official name, but those who worked on it called it the Reckoning. Every shipyard on Earth began working around the clock. Factories that had made civilian goods now produced weapons. Universities that had taught art and literature now focused on physics and engineering. Every resource humanity had was being gathered for a single purpose. "We cannot beat them in a straight fight," Nathan told his officers at the first briefing. "Their fleet is 100 times larger than ours. Their technology is more advanced. Their soldiers are stronger and faster. He looked around the room at the men and women who would help him plan the war. But we have something they do not have. We have a reason to fight. Every human on this planet, in this system, across every colony we have ever built, now knows what the Council truly is. They know that our children can be murdered without consequence. They know that we are not safe. He pressed a button and a hologram of Lily appeared above the table. Her smile, her bright eyes, her youth ambassador badge. "This is why we fight," Nathan said quietly. "Not for revenge. Not for power. We fight because if we do not, they will do this again. To another child. To another family. We fight because someone has to stop them." He turned off the hologram. "The Council believes they have already won. They think we are beaten. They are celebrating. Let them celebrate. Let them drink and laugh and forget about us." His voice hardened. "Because while they celebrate, we will be getting ready. And when we are ready, they will learn that humanity does not die quietly." In a laboratory beneath the mountains of Switzerland, Dr. Kevin Park worked on something that would change everything. He was a small man with thick glasses and messy hair. He had never cared about war or politics. He just loved solving problems. The problem he was solving now was simple. How do you destroy a civilization that has existed for 12,000 years? Not just their ships, not just their planets. Something deeper, something permanent. He looked at his screens, covered with data and calculations. "They built everything on lies," he muttered to himself. "Their power, their history, their legends. All lies." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And lies can be exposed. In the dark spaces between stars, something was awakening. Humanity was not building an army. They were building something much worse. A mirror. And soon, the Council would be forced to look into it. 2 years passed. The Council forgot about humanity. The elder races returned to their normal lives. They made trade deals. They fought small wars over distant planets. They argued about taxes and borders and all the other things that powerful beings argue about. The execution of one human girl became a footnote, a small story that was sometimes told at parties to show what happened to species that did not know their place. High Counselor Varanth grew even more powerful. His illegal trade in sentient beings continued. His wealth increased. His influence spread. He believed he was untouchable, but in the Sol system, humanity had not been idle. The first 18 months were spent gathering information. Commander Sophie Lane, the head of Earth Intelligence, led the effort. She was a quiet woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a memory that forgot nothing. For 30 years, she had been placing agents in Council space, building networks, collecting secrets. Now, all of that work was paying off. "We call it the Archive," she explained to the War Council. A group of military leaders and scientists who met in a bunker deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. It contains everything. Every secret the Council has tried to hide. Every crime they have committed. Every lie they have told. She pressed a button, and images appeared on the screen. Documents, videos, audio recordings, thousands of files. The Kalthari extinction of the Mural species 3,000 years ago. Officially, the Murals died from a disease. The truth: the Kalthari poisoned their water supply because the Murals refused to give them mining rights. She switched to another file. The Mendrith slave markets. They have been illegal for 2,000 years. But the Mendrith never stopped. They just moved them underground. We have records of every transaction. Every buyer. Every seller. Another file. The Voran experiments on pre-contact species. They have been using primitive civilizations as test subjects for biological weapons. We have footage. Admiral Nathan Carter watched in silence. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were clenched tight beneath the table. "How complete is this archive?" he asked. Sophie met his eyes. "Complete enough. Every founding species has blood on their hands. The Council's entire history is built on murder, slavery, and lies. When we release this information, their subjects will see the truth. Will they believe it? The evidence is overwhelming. They will have no choice." Nathan nodded slowly. "Good, but information alone will not win this war. What about our fleet?" Dr. Kevin Park stood up. He still had messy hair and thick glasses, but there was a new confidence in his voice. 2 years of impossible work had changed him. "Our fleet is ready," he said. "But it is not like anything the Council has ever seen." He pulled up ship designs on the screen. Sleek, black vessels that seemed to absorb light. "We threw away everything we knew about space travel," Kevin explained. "Council technology is advanced, but it is also old. They have been using the same basic principles for 8,000 years. They stopped innovating because they thought they had reached the limit." He smiled. "They were wrong. We developed new physics, new materials, new ways of moving through space. Our ships are faster, stronger, and smarter than anything they have. One of our cruisers can destroy 10 of theirs." General Maria Torres, the commander of Earth's ground forces, leaned forward. "What about numbers?" "They have 10,000 ships. We have what, 200? 312, Kevin corrected. "But numbers do not matter when you can be everywhere at once." He showed them footage of a test. A single human ship appeared in one location, fired, then vanished. A moment later, it appeared somewhere else entirely and fired again. Then again, and again. "Quantum fold technology," Kevin said. "We can jump across thousands of kilometers in the blink of an eye. Their targeting systems cannot track us. Their shields cannot adapt fast enough. We are like ghosts." The room was silent as they absorbed this information. Nathan finally spoke. "We have the weapons. We have the information. Now we need a plan." He stood and walked to the main screen. "We are not going to conquer them," he said. "We are not going to occupy their worlds or rule their people. That is not what this is about." He pulled up an image of the Council spire on Varanthus Prime. It was a massive structure, over a kilometer tall, covered in symbols and carvings that told the story of Council history. They have built monuments to themselves across the galaxy, statues, museums, archives. They have spent 12,000 years telling everyone that they are the heroes of the universe, that they brought peace and order to chaos, that they are the wise and just rulers of all civilization. He clenched his fist. "That is what we are going to destroy. Not their planets, not their people, their legacy, their reputation, their place in history." He turned to face the Council. "When we are done, no one will remember them as heroes. They will be remembered as monsters, as liars, as the slavers and murderers they truly are. Their own subjects will tear down their statues. Their own children will be ashamed of their names." General Torres raised an eyebrow. "That is a different kind of war." "Yes," Nathan agreed. "It is a war of truth, a war of memory, a war that will hurt them far more than any bomb ever could." Sophie Lane nodded. "The archive is ready to deploy. We can send it to every corner of Council space simultaneously. Every citizen of every species will receive it." "And when they try to fight back?" Torres asked. Nathan smiled grimly. "That is when they discover what our fleet can do. They will send their armada against us, expecting an easy victory. And we will break them, not just defeat them. Destroy them so completely that they will never threaten anyone again." The War Council voted unanimously to proceed. In the weeks that followed, final preparations were made. Ships were loaded. Crews were trained. The archive was duplicated 1,000,000 times, ready to be scattered across the stars. On the last night before the operation began, Nathan Carter stood alone in a memorial chamber aboard his flagship. The walls were covered with photographs of everyone humanity had lost to the Council over the years. Diplomats assassinated, traitors imprisoned, scientists disappeared. And in the center, larger than all the others, was a picture of Lily. "I am sorry I could not protect you," Nathan whispered to the photograph. "I am sorry I was not there when you needed me. But I promise you this, they will answer for what they did. And the galaxy will never forget your name." He stood there for a long time, looking at her smile. Then he wiped his eyes, straightened his uniform, and walked to the bridge. "All ships," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "This is Admiral Carter. Begin Operation Reckoning. It is time to show the Council what humanity is made of." Across the Sol system, 312 ships activated their engines. Their hulls shimmered as quantum full drives charged. In perfect unison, they disappeared from Earth space. The war had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The first strike came without warning. On Varanthos Prime, it was the middle of the night cycle. The Council spire stood tall against the purple sky, its lights shining like a beacon of power. Orbital defense platforms drifted lazily in space above. Nothing had threatened the capital world in 3,000 years. The guards were bored. The commanders were asleep. Then a single ship appeared. It was small and black and shaped like nothing the Council had ever seen. It hung in space above the planet for exactly 3 seconds. That was enough time for every alarm on the planet to start screaming. But before a single weapon could fire, the ship released its payload. It was not a bomb. It was data. Billions of files poured out across every communication channel on the planet. Every personal device, every public screen, every government terminal received the same information. The archive. On the streets of the capital city, citizens stopped walking and stared at their devices. On ships in orbit, crews abandoned their stations to read what had appeared on their screens. In homes and offices and restaurants, everyone fell silent as the truth was revealed. The execution of the mural species, the secret slave markets, the biological experiments, the assassinations, the lies. Everything. High. Councillor Varanth was in his private chambers when his aide burst through the door. "My lord," the aide gasped, "you need to see this." Varanth grabbed the tablet from his hands and looked. His face went pale, then red, then a color that Kelthari only turned when they were truly afraid. "Shut it down," he ordered. "Cut the communication networks. Stop the spread." "We cannot, my lord. It is coming from everywhere. Every satellite, every relay station. We do not know how they did it." Varanth threw the tablet against the wall. It shattered into pieces. "The humans," he hissed. "This is the humans." At that moment, across the galaxy, the same thing was happening on every Council world. The archive spread like wildfire. Species that had been loyal to the Council for millennia suddenly saw the truth about their masters. They saw the crimes. They saw the bodies. They saw the lies, and they were angry. On Mendra 7, crowds gathered outside government buildings, demanding explanations. On Kelthari Prime, protesters burned images of the Council flag. On a dozen other worlds, the seeds of rebellion were planted, but humanity was not finished. The second wave targeted symbols. The Great Archive of Mendrath was the oldest library in the galaxy. It contained 10,000 years of history, carefully written to make the Council look like heroes. Within 1 hour, human hackers had erased every file and replaced them with the true records. The eternal flame of Kelthar had burned for 8,000 years. It was said that as long as the flame burned, the Kelthari would rule. A precision strike from orbit extinguished it in seconds. The monument of founding, a massive statue showing the 7 elder species standing together in brotherhood, was reduced to rubble by a single human ship. Admiral Nathan Carter broadcast a message to the entire council. "You took our daughter," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Now we take your legacy, your monuments, your history, everything you built to make yourselves feel like gods. We are going to erase it all." He paused. "When we are done, the galaxy will not remember you as the founders of civilization. They will remember you as the cowards who murdered a 17-year-old girl because she saw the truth." The council finally responded. High Counselor Voranth called an emergency session and demanded action. His voice shook with rage as he addressed the assembly. "The humans have attacked us," he shouted. "They have destroyed our sacred sites. They have spread lies about our history. This is an act of war. Then we will crush them," said the Voran delegate. "Send the fleet. All of it. Destroy their homeworld. Leave nothing alive." The vote was unanimous. The largest armada in galactic history was assembled. Over 10,000 ships from a dozen species gathered at the edge of council. Space, battleships, cruisers, carriers, destroyers. Enough firepower to crack a planet, thought the commander of the armada. Admiral Kreth of the Vorn sent a message to Earth. "Surrender now," he said, "and we will kill you quickly. Resist, and we will make your extinction last 1,000 years." The response came from Commander Marcus Webb, captain of the human flagship Judgment. "You want us?" Webb replied, "Come and get us." The two fleets met at the edge of the neutral zone, a region of space between Council territory and the Sol system. The Council armada spread across thousands of kilometers, an overwhelming display of power. Their ships gleamed with polished hulls and ancient symbols. The human fleet was tiny in comparison. 300 ships against 10,000. Admiral Kreth laughed when he saw the human formation. "This is it? This is what they sent to face us? They are even more foolish than I thought." He gave the order to attack. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The human ships did not move. They did not fire. They simply waited when the Council fleet was within weapons range. They vanished. All 300 ships disappeared in the same instant. Before Kreth could process what had happened, they reappeared. But not where they had been. They were scattered throughout the Council formation, appearing behind ships, beside ships, above and below and all around. And they were firing. Human weapons tore through Council shields like paper. Ships that had survived 100 battles exploded in seconds. The quantum fold drives allowed human vessels to jump away before return fire could reach them, only to appear somewhere else and fire again. The Council armada tried to respond. They were experienced warriors. They had fought and won countless conflicts. But they had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere. An enemy that did not fight fair. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, the Council armada was gone. 10,000 ships reduced to floating debris. Millions of soldiers dead. The human fleet had lost 17 ships. Admiral Nathan Carter surveyed the wreckage from the bridge of his vessel. His face showed no joy, no triumph, only a cold satisfaction that the job was done. "Send a message to the Council," he ordered. "Tell them this was their only fleet. Tell them what happens next is up to them." On Varanthos Prime, High Counselor Voranth received the news in his chambers. He watched the footage of the battle, watched his mighty armada being torn apart like toys. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. "What do we do?" his aide asked. Voranth did not answer. He was staring at the screen, watching human ships dance through his fleet, destroying everything they touched. He had called them weak. He had called them emotional. He had killed one of their children and laughed about it. Now, he understood the truth. The humans had not been weak. They had been waiting, and now there was nothing left to stop them. The surrender came 6 weeks after the battle. It was not a grand ceremony. There were no speeches or celebrations. High Council of Varanth simply appeared on a galactic broadcast and announced that the council would accept human terms. His voice was quiet. His eyes were empty. He looked like a being who had watched everything he believed in crumble to dust. "The war is over," he said. "We have lost." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in stunned silence. The council had ruled for 12,000 years. They had seemed eternal, untouchable, and now they had been brought to their knees by a species they had dismissed as children. But the humans did not want conquest. They wanted something different. President Catherine Walsh traveled to Varanthos, primed to deliver humanity's demands in person. She walked into the council chamber, the same room where Lily Carter's death sentence had been announced, and stood before the 7 empty thrones of the elder species. "You expected us to ask for territory," she said. "For wealth. For power over your worlds. That is what you would have demanded if you had won." She shook her head. "We want none of that. What we want is justice. Real justice. And change." Her demands were simple. The Galactic Council would be dissolved. In its place, a new government would be formed. A galactic assembly where every species, young or old, powerful or weak, would have an equal voice. No more elder races. No more lesser species. One vote for every world. The crimes revealed in the archive would be investigated. Those responsible would face trial. Not execution, but justice. A fair trial where evidence would be presented and judgment would be made, and the truth would never be hidden again. The false histories would be replaced with real ones. Every species would learn what the council had truly done. Not to punish them forever, but so that such things could never happen again. The council representatives listened in silence. They had no choice. Their fleet was gone. Their people had turned against them. Their legacy was in ruins. They agreed to everything. The trial of High Council of Varanth lasted 4 months. Witnesses came from across the galaxy. Victims of his slave trade. Families of those he had murdered. Worlds he had exploited, and the evidence of what he had done to Lily Carter. Varanth tried to defend himself. He called it politics. He called it necessity. He called it the price of maintaining order. The tribunal did not agree. He was found guilty of crimes against sentient life. His sentence was life imprisonment on a barren moon at the edge of known space. He would spend the rest of his days alone, with nothing but recordings of his own speeches about justice and order. It was a fitting punishment. He would have preferred death. The Galactic Assembly held its first session 1 year after the war ended. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in a new chamber built on neutral ground, designed to look nothing like the old council spire. President Walsh spoke at the opening ceremony. "We did not fight this war for power," she said. "We fought it because no child should ever be murdered for telling the truth. We fought it because 12,000 years of lies was enough. We fought it because someone had to stand up and say that this was wrong." She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. "Humanity does not want to rule you. We want to work beside you. We want to build something better than what came before. Not a council of masters and servants, but a true partnership of equals." She paused. "We know it will not be easy. There is too much history, too much pain, too many wounds that will take generations to heal. But we have to try, because the alternative, going back to what we were, is something none of us can accept." The assembly voted to accept its charter. A new era had begun. Admiral Nathan Carter did not attend the ceremony. He had retired from military service the day the war ended. He had done what he needed to do, and he had no desire for glory or recognition. He returned to Earth, to the small town in Colorado where Lily had grown up. He bought a piece of land on a hill overlooking the valley. And there, with his own hands, he built a memorial. It was not grand. It was not impressive. It was just a small garden with a wooden bench and a simple stone marker. The marker read, "For Lily, who dreamed of bridges between worlds." Word spread. People began to visit. First humans, then others. Ships would land at the nearest port, and aliens would make the journey up the hill to see the garden. They left flowers. They left tokens. They left messages in languages Nathan could not read. One day, about a year after the garden was finished, Nathan was sitting on the bench when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw a young Kalthari female approaching. She was barely an adult, her scales still bright with the colors of youth. She stopped a few meters away, looking uncertain. "Afraid. I am sorry to disturb you," she said. Her voice trembled. "I can leave if you want." Nathan studied her for a moment. She wore simple clothes. Her eyes were wet with tears she was trying to hold back. "Why did you come here?" he asked. The young Kalthari swallowed. "To say I am sorry. For what my people did. For what our leaders did to your daughter." She looked down at the ground. "I did not know," she continued. "None of us knew. We were told that the council was good, that the humans were dangerous, that everything they did was for our protection." She finally looked up, meeting his eyes. "When the archive was released, I read everything. Every document. Every file. I saw what we really were. What our history really was. And I was ashamed. I am still ashamed." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. He looked at this young alien, standing alone in a human garden, carrying the weight of crimes she had never committed. "What is your name?" he asked. "Syra," she said. Nathan nodded slowly. Then he gestured to the empty space on the bench beside him. "Sit down, Syra." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I am sure." Syra walked forward and sat on the bench, keeping a careful distance. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just looked out at the valley, at the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "My daughter wanted to be a diplomat," Nathan finally said. "She wanted to help different species understand each other. She believed that if people just talked to each other, if they really listened, they could solve any problem." He smiled sadly. "I thought she was naive. I had seen too much war, too much hate. I did not think the galaxy was ready for what she wanted to give it." He turned to look at Syra. "But she was right, and I was wrong. You coming here, to apologize for something that was not your fault, to try to build a bridge across all that pain and history. That is exactly what she wanted. That is exactly what she dreamed of." Syra's tears finally fell. She wiped them away quickly. "I wish I could have known her," she whispered. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It showed Lily on her 16th birthday, smiling at the camera, full of hope and joy and dreams. "Let me tell you about her," he said. And there, in a garden on Earth, as the sun set and the stars came out, a human father and a Kalthari daughter sat together. He told her about Lily, her laugh, her kindness, her stubborn belief that the galaxy could be better. Syra listened to every word. When he finished, she made him a promise. She would go back to her people. She would teach them the truth. She would help them become something better than what they had been. She would build the bridges. Lily had dreamed of. Nathan watched her leave as night fell. He sat alone on the bench for a while longer, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, new conversations were starting. New friendships were forming. New understanding was being built, slowly and painfully, but being built all the same. His daughter had wanted to connect worlds. In the end, she had not through diplomacy or treaties or speeches, through a story, through grief shared, through the simple act of one person listening to another. Lily Carter had changed the galaxy, and her father finally understood that her dream had come true. He smiled for the first time in years and whispered into the night, "You did it, sweetheart. You built your bridge." Above him, the stars shone bright against the darkness, and somewhere, somehow, he knew she was watching.